joined by Dr. Ilian Iliev, who is one of the founders of EMV Capital. Ilian, good to see you again. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, I think EMV Capital will probably be quite a new name to the advisor audience. So if you could give us a little bit of background about the company, about your sort of self from an investment perspective, and then the areas of speciality for the firm.
Sure, absolutely. Well, briefly about myself. For my sins, I'm an economist by training, but I've started and ran a number of businesses. The very first business was in Southern Africa in the industrial electric space, a family business. So in my 20s, I was building with my family a power plant, manufacturing facilities and so on. So this is how I kind of got to know a lot of this space. I built a business in Cambridge called Cambridge IP. It was one of the UK's leading patent and technology analytics companies, working with a number of corporates, building out knowledge about where technology is going, where technology is emerging from. And a lot of the themes that I've picked up with these two and other things I've done showed me where the gap was in terms of the scale up of businesses in the UK and elsewhere, and different funding strategies for investors. In terms of EMV Capital, originally we were known as EcoMachines Ventures, so I founded it in 2013. And the focus was on companies broadly in the environmental, low carbon and energy efficiency space.
Yeah.
And I should emphasize, while we do have an ESG kind of aspect in terms of we look to invest in things that have broadly a positive social impact, we're very much focused on real businesses for profit, taking kind of a hard-nosed investment approach. And
given your sort of background running industrial type sort of businesses, it would seem that was a natural area for certainly for you when you're kind of running the firm to look at that as an area of a kind of investment. For advisors who sort of don't know, what kind of areas does that sort of take you into?
So we have a, if you will, a matrix. So in terms of sectors that we look at, we look broadly at energy, high value manufacturing, kind of the new terms of smart cities, smart buildings, but basically building automation, infrastructure, technology for infrastructure.
And a lot of the smart cities agenda is about reduce energy use, isn't it?
Absolutely. Reduce energy use and also allow people to live better, air quality controls, smart lighting. But again, that whole area has really matured massively. It's a multi-billion area. All the large corporates are looking for solutions. I would say one more thing. So we have the sectors, we have technologies as horizontals, but what we're also mindful of is the hype cycle in technologies. We don't invest in hype. Our slogan, if you will, is we back ambition, but we invest in execution. We spend a lot of time with the companies, working through their business plans, getting to know them. Some of the companies that we invest in now, we've known for 3 years, monitoring how they're developing, getting to know the team. It is quite important to build this deep understanding, and again, referring to the hype aspect, to invest in something you understand and you see how it's going to scale, rather than follow market momentum.
And what sort of currently would fall into the hype category for you within the sort of technology spectrum?
Well, I mean, Bitcoin, I suppose, has gone off the hype, and anyhow, it was not in our space. But what has emerged out of that is actually quite a few decent blockchain solutions that you can use for supply chain monitoring, supply chain tracking, or enabling microtransactions. There's obviously quite a bit around autonomous vehicles, autonomous driving. I think it's kind of starting to come off the hype curve right now as people understand the complexity of the system and actually what's needed. In terms of past hypes where we're seeing opportunities come from, there was a lot of investment in the 90s and 2000s in materials science, nanomaterials. There's a lot of companies not founded in the 1990s, maybe they recently founded, but they're based on technologies developed or scientific breakthroughs from those years.
So one of the skills that you're bringing as an investment firm is to actually essentially filter out the hype, so that the offerings in front of the advisors are ones that you think have got a much better chance of success. So you try not to expose the advisors and their clients to too much unnecessary risk.
Absolutely. The origins of EMV Capital is we actually originally we did not start from SES or ES as many do. We started by working with a number of family offices, UK and non-UK, and building up syndicate investments with them. So these were people that are hugely experienced and very hands-on. So working with them, we've developed really strong filters and techniques and kind of ability not to try not to lose our money, I suppose. But the other important aspect and filter and that we have developed as part of our strategy is working closely with corporates, global multinationals. We have co-invested with the likes of EMV Ventures, Evonik Industries, Flextronics, Philips Lighting, now called Signify, and a few others. And working with those corporates enables us to, first of all, gain access to the due diligence and technology knowledge resources of those corporates. I can never compete with them in terms of number of engineers or skill sets, but also gaining access to the distribution channels, get close to them in terms of major projects that they're developing. This, from our perspective, massively de-risks the investment propositions, but also it accelerates the growth of these companies. And in terms of the UK growth agenda, enables UK companies to access international markets much faster at an earlier stage of investment than they would otherwise.
And just finally, because we're running out of time as ever, for advisors who are kind of interested in the areas that you're investing in, what in this end of tax year, what are the current offerings, tax efficient offerings that you have available?
So we have launched the EMV Capital Evergreen EIS Fund, and what that means is that there is an ongoing possibility to invest. It is an evergreen fund, of course. It is broadly focused on the same fields that I mentioned that EMV Capital is investing in, and essentially the fund will be co-investing alongside some of our other investors. We're looking to invest across the life cycle of the investments. So basically, it's not about beyond getting into a deal, it is also the ability to stay with those deals for the IFA's investors.
And within the portfolio, presumably a spread of investments to create some diversification.
Absolutely. So a spread of investments both in terms of technology and sector types, but also in terms of the stages of investment. So we invest in call it seed plus, so basically late seed, pre-Series A and Series A investments.
Ilian, thank you very much for coming in, and good luck to you and your investments.
Thank you.